I have known love that tiptoes in the night, love that speaks in whispers, love that barely touches the soul before it vanishes into the wind. I have reached for hands that pulled away, called out names that never answered, and stood in doorways waiting for footsteps that never returned. Oh, how I have known, and yet I am still here. Beloved, if you have ever loved someone who runs, you know the weight of it. You know what it is to pour yourself out like a river only to find them standing on the shore, unwilling to wade in. You know the coldness of an embrace that never truly holds, the ache of conversations where your words fall heavy and theirs rise like smoke, gone before they settle. But I am here to tell you, do not beg for love. Do not shrink yourself down. Do not soften your edges. Do not become smaller so that someone who fears intimacy might finally feel safe. Because, my dear, love is not meant to be chased. Love is not a game of hide and seek. It does not bloom in the shadows of silence. There are people in this world who will stand firm, who will meet your love with open hands and steady hearts. There are souls who will not run when things get hard, who will not retreat into themselves when the light gets too bright. And you must love yourself enough to know that you are worthy of such love. So if you find yourself loving someone who cannot hold your love, release them. Let them go with grace. Let them go with dignity. Let them go knowing that you gave what you could and that what you gave was good. And then, my dear, turn toward yourself. Because the most beautiful love you will ever know is the one that does not run, does not flinch, does not disappear in the night. It is the love that lives in your own heart, waiting for you to claim it. And when you do, oh, when you do, you will never have to beg again. There is a kind of love that feels like a chase. It dances just beyond your reach, teasing, tempting, making you believe that if you could just be a little more patient, a little more understanding, a little more of something, then finally it would stop running. Finally, it would turn to face you, open its arms, and be still. But love, real love, does not ask you to chase. It does not dangle itself before you like a prize to be won or a mystery to be solved. It does not make you doubt, does not make you question if you are too much or too little, does not make you wait in doorways, in silence, in sorrow, wondering what you did wrong. And yet, so many of us have loved like this. We have thrown our hearts into the hands of those who cannot hold them. We have whispered, "I will wait for you," to souls who were never meant to stay. We have believed that love was something to be earned rather than something to be met equally, fully, without hesitation. But my dear, love is not meant to be chased. When someone truly loves you, they will not make you wonder where they stand. They will not retreat when things get real, when the walls come down, when the truth of who you are is finally laid bare before them. They will not hide in silence, leaving you to fill in the gaps with your own fears. They will not treat your presence as a weight to be carried, nor will they treat your love as something to be feared. You must understand this, not as a theory, not as a distant hope, but as an unshakable truth. What is meant for you will stand beside you. It will not run. It will not flinch at the weight of your love. It will not make you beg for presence, for reassurance, for effort. And if someone is running, if someone is keeping you at arm's length, if someone is loving you only in pieces, only in moments, only in the shallow end of the ocean, then they are not yours to hold. They may care for you, they may even love you in the only way they know how, but if that love is rooted in fear, in avoidance, in distance, then it is not the love that will fill you. It is not the love that will sustain you. Let them go. Not in anger, not in resentment, not in bitterness. Let them go in peace. Let them go knowing that you are not leaving because you are unloved, but because you deserve more than love that must be chased. Let them go knowing that you are not abandoning them, but that you are choosing yourself. And then turn toward the love that does not run. Turn toward the love that meets you fully. Turn toward the love that does not make you question your worth, does not make you doubt your presence, does not make you feel like a visitor in someone else's heart, because that love exists and it will never ask you to chase it. And when you find it, when you finally stand before someone who stays, who meets you in the middle, who does not make you feel like too much or too little, you will understand. You will see so clearly that love was never meant to be a race, never meant to be a puzzle, never meant to be something you had to earn. It was always meant to be something you simply receive. Something you stand in fully, knowing that this time, finally, it will not run. There is a dangerous thought that creeps into the mind when you love someone who keeps their heart locked away. It is quiet at first, a whisper in the lonely hours, a fleeting doubt that grows roots. It asks, am I not enough? It lingers in the spaces between unanswered texts, in the silence after words go unreturned, in the cold absence of the warmth you so freely give. And before you know it, you begin to wonder if the problem is not them, but you. But listen to me now and listen well. You are not unlovable. You are simply loving someone who fears love itself. There are people in this world who will take what you offer, your kindness, your tenderness, your unwavering presence, and they will hold it in their hands like something fragile, something dangerous, something too heavy to carry. Not because your love is wrong, not because it is too much, but because they do not know what to do with something so whole. Some hearts have been taught that love is a trap, that closeness is a risk, that needing another is weak. Some souls have learned to survive by running, by keeping their distance, by never allowing themselves to be fully seen. And when you love someone like this, it is easy to mistake their hesitation for a reflection of your worth. It is easy to believe that if you were just a little less or maybe a little more, they would finally feel safe enough to stay. But the truth is, their fear is not yours to fix. You could be softer. You could be quieter. You could make yourself small, make yourself patient beyond reason, make yourself an endless source of warmth in the hopes that one day, finally, they will let it in. And maybe they will, for a moment, for an evening, for a heartbeat. But love given in fear does not last. And no matter how much light you pour into them, you cannot force them to see themselves in its glow. So do not carry this burden. Do not let the weight of their distance settle into your bones as proof that you are too much, too difficult, too unworthy of the love you long for. Because, my dear, their running does not mean you are chasing the wrong love. It means they are not ready to stand still. And you deserve a love that stands still. You deserve a love that does not make you question if you are enough. You deserve a love that does not need to be convinced, does not hesitate, does not withdraw the moment you get too close. You deserve a love that sees the depth of you and does not flinch. A love that embraces the fullness of your being without fear. So if you are standing in the shadow of someone who cannot meet you in the light, step away. Not because you do not care, not because you are angry, not because you are giving up, but because you are choosing yourself. Because you are choosing to believe that love should not feel like waiting, should not feel like uncertainty, should not feel like holding out your hands only to close them around air. You are not unlovable. Your love is not too much. And one day, when you stand before someone who does not pull away, someone who does not flinch at your honesty, someone who does not see your love as a weight but as a gift, you will understand. You will see in their steady hands and unwavering presence that it was never you. It was never about being enough. It was always about finding someone who is ready. There is a quiet kind of suffering that comes with loving someone who is afraid of love. It does not announce itself with sharp words or obvious wounds, but it lingers in the spaces where you begin to disappear, where you trade pieces of yourself for the hope that one day they will finally feel safe enough to stay. At first, it feels small. You bite your tongue when you want to speak, hold back your laughter when it feels too loud, soften your opinions so they don't feel too strong. You become careful not to say too much, not to want too much, not to need too much. You learn to tiptoe, to measure your words, to carry your love like something fragile, something that might shatter if you hold it too firmly. And maybe for a while it seems to work. They stay a little longer. They don't pull away as quickly. They don't retreat so fast into their silence. So you tell yourself that this is love. That love, real love, requires patience, requires sacrifice, requires making yourself smaller so that they will finally feel big enough to hold it all. But my dear, love is not meant to make you disappear. Love is not meant to turn you into a watered-down version of yourself, a quiet echo of the person you once were. Love is not meant to be something you manage carefully, something you ration out in small doses so that it does not overwhelm. Love, true, steady, unwavering love, does not require you to shrink. You were not made to be small. You were not made to silence your voice, to dim your light, to fit into the narrow space someone else has carved out for you. Your love is not too much. Your presence is not a burden. Your truth is not something that needs to be softened to be accepted. And if you have to quiet your heart to be loved, then you are not being loved. You are being tolerated. You deserve more than that. You deserve a love that welcomes you fully, a love that does not ask you to fold yourself into something unrecognizable just to make it more comfortable for someone else. You deserve a love that does not fear your depth, does not flinch at your honesty, does not make you second guess every word, every touch, every feeling. And I know it is hard. I know that walking away from someone you love, someone you have poured so much of yourself into, is not easy. I know that the idea of letting go feels like failure, feels like giving up, feels like abandoning something you swore you would fight for. But my dear, love should not be a battle where only one of you is fighting. Love should not feel like a constant negotiation, a never-ending attempt to be just enough without ever being too much. So if you find yourself shrinking, if you find yourself holding back, if you find yourself erasing parts of who you are just to be accepted, stop. Stand tall, take up space, speak your truth, and if they cannot hold it, if they cannot meet you where you stand, then let them go. Not because you are unworthy, not because you are too much, but because the right love will never ask you to be anything less than exactly who you are. There is a kind of exhaustion that does not come from work, from movement, from the weight of the world pressing against your shoulders. It is the exhaustion of pouring love into a space where it is not fully received. It is the weariness of waiting for someone to show up in the way you need, only to be met with silence, with distance, with hesitation. It is the slow, steady drain of giving and giving, hoping that one day, finally, they will meet you halfway. But love should not feel like this. Love should not feel like something you must prove, something you must earn, something you must fight for every single day while the other person holds back. Love should not leave you feeling empty. Yet, when you love someone who is afraid of closeness, you learn how to survive on scraps. You learn to make peace with inconsistency, to find comfort in uncertainty, to cherish the brief moments when they let you in, even if those moments are fleeting. You convince yourself that the effort you are making is enough for both of you, that if you just love harder, if you just hold on longer, if you just keep giving, one day they will finally feel safe enough to stay. But love is not meant to be carried alone. You cannot be the only one reaching, the only one trying, the only one willing to fight through the hard parts. Love should not be a place where you prove your worth over and over again, hoping that eventually they will see it. Love should not be a hunger that never gets fed, a thirst that is never satisfied, a door you are always knocking on but never fully allowed to enter. And I know it is hard to walk away. It is hard to release something you have built, something you have fought for, something you have invested so much of your heart into. It is hard to let go when you can still see glimpses of what it could be if only they would choose to meet you there. But my dear, love should not feel like waiting. Love should not be an endless proving ground. It should not be a place where you diminish your own needs in order to accommodate someone else's fears. It should not be something that drains you, something that leaves you questioning yourself, something that makes you feel like you are asking for too much simply because you want to be held the way you hold. You deserve more than love that makes you weary. You deserve more than love that comes in fragments, in hesitation, in half-hearted attempts. You deserve the kind of love that meets you in the middle, that gives as much as it takes, that does not leave you standing in an empty room waiting for someone who will never fully arrive. So if you are tired, if you are weary, if you are giving until there is almost nothing left, stop. Put down what is not being held with you. Step away from what is draining you. Walk toward the love that does not require exhaustion, because love should not leave you empty. Love should fill. Love should restore. Love should be a place where you can rest, where you can breathe, where you can exist fully without fear of being too much. And when you find that love, the love that does not make you beg, the love that does not take more than it gives, you will wonder why you ever spent so long holding on to something that only made you tired, There is a moment in love, a quiet moment, when you realize you are holding on to something that does not want to be held. You feel it in the way they pull away when you reach for them, in the way their words slip through your fingers, never quite forming the promises you long to hear. You see it in the way they hesitate, the way they come close only to step back again, like the tide that kisses the shore but never stays. And still you stay. You stay because you believe in them. You stay because you see the good in them, the warmth hidden beneath the layers of fear, the love they could give if only they were brave enough to give it. You stay because you hope, oh, how you hope, that one day they will wake up and realize what you have known all along, that this love could be something beautiful, something steady, something real. But my dear, a love that constantly runs is not yours to hold. You were never meant to spend your days chasing after something that flees at the first sign of closeness. You were never meant to carry the weight of a love that is only half present, half invested, half alive. Love is not a thing to be dragged forward by sheer willpower. It must stand on its own, must grow on its own, must choose again and again to stay. And if they cannot choose you fully, if they cannot stand beside you without fear, without hesitation, without retreat, then let them go. Let them go, not because you have stopped loving them, but because love should not feel like a battle fought alone. Let them go, not because they are incapable of love, but because they are incapable of loving you in the way you deserve. Let them go, not because you are giving up, but because you are choosing to believe that love should not be something that leaves you breathless from the chase. I know it is hard. I know the ache that comes with releasing someone you still long for. I know the emptiness that follows, the silence that feels deafening, the way your hands tremble when they are no longer reaching for something that was never fully there. But I also know that holding on to someone who keeps running will only leave you exhausted, depleted, a shadow of the person you once were. And you were not meant to live like that. You were meant to be loved fully, deeply, without condition. You were meant to be held by hands that do not pull away, to be met by a heart that does not waver in its choice to stand beside you. You were meant to know love that does not make you question, does not make you beg, does not make you feel like you are asking for too much simply because you want to be cherished. So if they are running, if they are unsure, if they are keeping you at a distance despite all the love you offer, let them go. Let them go with grace, with kindness, with the quiet understanding that their journey is not yours to force. Let them go knowing that love is not something to be chased, but something to be met equally willingly by both hearts involved. And when you finally let go, when you finally stop reaching for someone who was never ready to be caught, you will feel it. The lightness, the peace, the quiet certainty that the love meant for you will never ask you to run after it. There is something sacred about a love that does not waver, a love that does not make you second guess its presence, a love that reaches for you with the same depth that you offer. And yet, too often we find ourselves clinging to those who hesitate, who hold back, who never seem to meet us in the space we so freely create for them. At first, you tell yourself it's just their way, that some people love quietly, that some people take longer to open up, that if you just give them time, they will learn to love the way you do, so you wait. You pour your heart into them like water into dry soil, hoping, praying that one day they will bloom. You tell yourself that love is patient, that love is kind, and that if you are patient enough, kind enough, strong enough, they will finally see the love standing before them and reach back for it. But what if they never do? What if all your patience, all your waiting, all your hoping leads only to more distance, more silence, more unanswered calls, more nights spent wondering why you still feel alone in the presence of the person you love? What if the love you are so willing to give is met only with hesitation, with fear, with half-hearted attempts that never amount to the full embrace you long for? My dear, hear me when I say this. You deserve a love that reaches for you just as much as you reach for it. Love was never meant to be lopsided. It was never meant to be something that leaves you standing in the cold, knocking on a door that never fully opens. Love was meant to be a home, a safe place, a steady presence that does not ask you to beg for warmth. And yet too many of us find ourselves settling for love that barely reaches us, love that feels like a whisper instead of a promise, love that makes us wonder if we are too much, when in reality we are simply asking the wrong person to meet us where we stand, because love, real love, does not make you question. It does not make you wonder if you are wanted, does not leave you guessing where you stand, does not retreat into silence when things get hard. Real love does not require you to prove yourself worthy of it. It arrives fully, completely, with no hesitation, no fear, no need to run. So why do we stay? Why do we continue to hold on to people who cannot love us the way we deserve? Maybe because we have convinced ourselves that this is all there is. Maybe because we believe that love, even in its smallest form, is better than no love at all. Maybe because we've been taught that to love someone means to endure, to sacrifice, to fight, even when the battle is only ours to fight. But love is not meant to be a battle. Love should not leave you tired. Love should not feel like a thing you must carry alone. And I know how hard it is to walk away from someone you love. I know the ache of letting go, the way it feels like ripping away a part of yourself, the way your hands feel empty when they are no longer holding on to hope. But I also know the beauty of love that does not require you to beg for it. I know the way it feels to be met fully by someone who does not flinch at your depth, who does not run when things get real, who does not love you only in moments, but in every moment. And when you find that love, when you stand before someone whose hands are steady, whose heart is open, whose love is not a question but a certainty, you will understand. You will see that love was never meant to be a struggle, never meant to be something you had to earn, never meant to leave you feeling like you are holding on to something that is always slipping away. Because love, real love, will reach for you just as much as you reach for it. And when you finally stand in the presence of a love like that, you will never have to ask for more. There comes a moment when you realize that love is not enough to keep someone by your side. Not because your love is lacking, not because it is too much or too little, but because love alone cannot build a bridge where one does not wish to cross. You can love someone with everything in you, love them patiently, love them gently, love them in a way that makes space for all their fears and hesitations. You can hold your hands out in offering, showing them that love does not have to be a thing that hurts, a thing that traps, a thing that takes more than it gives. You can make yourself a place of safety, a place of warmth, a place where they can finally exhale. And still, it will not be enough if they do not choose to stay. Because love is not enough when fear is greater. Some people will see love as a thing to run from. No matter how kind, no matter how patient, no matter how true, they will flinch at the closeness, retreat from the intimacy, disappear the moment it feels real. Not because your love is wrong, but because they are not ready to receive it, because they have spent too long believing that love is a thing that takes, that love is a thing that ends, that love is something that leaves you empty instead of full. And no matter how much you love them, no matter how deeply you wish to show them another way, you cannot make someone ready. You cannot love someone into healing. You cannot love someone into staying. You cannot love someone into choosing you if they are not willing to face the walls they have built around their own heart. And so you are left with a choice. You can keep waiting, keep hoping, keep trying to be the one who changes their mind. You can keep pouring yourself into them, believing that if you just give a little more, if you just hold on a little longer, they will finally see what has been in front of them all along. You can keep making yourself small, keep making excuses for why they cannot love you the way you need to be loved. Keep telling yourself that one day they will be ready. Or you can walk away. Not because you do not love them, not because you have given up, but because you finally understand that love is not meant to be one-sided. Love is not meant to be something you carry alone. Love is not meant to be a waiting game where you keep losing parts of yourself in the hope that they will finally catch up. Love, true, deep, unwavering love should be met with open hands, not hesitation, with steady hearts, not uncertain steps, with presence, not absence. And I know how hard it is to let go. I know the way your heart aches at the thought of leaving behind something you have fought so hard to keep. I know the way your mind tries to convince you that if you just hold on a little longer, they will finally wake up and realize what they are losing. But my dear, someone who is meant for you will not need to be convinced. Love should not be something you have to beg for. Love should not be something that asks you to wait in the shadows, hoping that one day, finally, it will be your turn. Love should be something that meets you where you are, fully, willingly, without hesitation. And when you finally choose to let go, when you finally release the love that was never fully yours to hold, you will find something even greater waiting for you. A love that does not make you question, a love that does not keep you waiting, a love that does not ask you to shrink, to chase, to prove. Because the love that is meant for you will never need to be pursued. It will choose you freely, fully, without fear. And when that love arrives, you will know, without a doubt, without hesitation, without question, that it was always worth the wait. Love should not be a place where you lose yourself. It should not be a battle you fight alone, a question you keep asking, a door you are always knocking on without answer. Love should meet you where you stand, embrace you as you are, and choose you just as much as you choose it. If you find yourself shrinking, waiting, chasing, aching, stop. Let go of what is not holding you. Walk away from what does not see you. Release the love that is not freely given, not because you have stopped loving, but because you have started loving yourself more. One day, love will come to you in a way that does not require you to beg, to prove, to wait. One day, love will arrive with steady hands, open arms, and a heart that does not flinch at your depth. And when that day comes, you will wonder why you ever settled for less. Until then, stand tall. Keep your heart open. Know that the love meant for you will always find its way. Good luck on your journey, and may you always find the love that chooses you. Thank you. Hello, everyone, my dear brothers and sisters, my dear dreamers and doers, my dear warriors of the everyday. Lean in, come close. There is something I must tell you, something you already know deep down in the marrow of your bones, but may have forgotten in the noise of the world. You see, life will try to tell you who you are. It will whisper in quiet rooms and shout in crowded streets. It will hand you labels like burdens and place limits where there should be none. But listen to me now. Your perception, the way you see yourself, the way you allow yourself to be seen, is the rudder steering your ship. Some folks walk this earth carrying weights they never agreed to bear. They were told they were too small, too big, too quiet, too loud, too late, too early, and they believed it. And so their wings folded before they ever learned to fly. Let me tell you a truth that the world often forgets. The way you see yourself determines the way the world responds to you. There are people who walk into a room and before they utter a single word, the air shifts. The crowd leans in. Eyes follow them. Not because they wear the finest clothes or because their name sits on billboards, but because they carry themselves as if they belong. They have decided deep in their souls that they are worthy. And so the world believes them. But there are others, oh, so many others, who shrink before they even arrive. They step forward apologetically, as if they are intruding on the very life that was meant to be theirs. They whisper when they should speak. They lower their gaze when they should lift their head, not because they lack ability, not because they are undeserving, but because somewhere along the way, they accepted the world's small opinion of them as the truth. I tell you now, if you see yourself as less, the world will not correct you. It will not argue on your behalf. It will take your lowered gaze, your uncertain stance, and say, yes, you are right, you do not belong. But if you walk in as if you were sent by the heavens themselves, if you own your place, if you stand tall in the knowledge of your worth, the world will shift. It will step aside and make room. Let me remind you, perception is not arrogance, it is power. It is not about pretending, it is about knowing. Knowing that you, just as you are enough. Knowing that your voice deserves to be heard. That your dreams deserve to be pursued. That your hands were made to build, create, shape a life of meaning. And yet so many of us wait for permission. We wait for someone to tell us that we are capable, that we are strong enough, smart enough, worthy enough. But tell me, who are these gatekeepers? Who has the right to decide what you can and cannot do? Is it the voices from your past, the ones that said you were too much or not enough? Is it the fear that creeps in when you are on the edge of something great? Let me tell you this, no one will hand you a crown and call you worthy. You must decide it for yourself. You must wear your confidence like armor, not to keep the world out, but to remind yourself that you are not at its mercy. Look around. History was not written by those who waited to be chosen. The greatest achievements came from those who saw themselves as more before the world ever did. Before the painter was celebrated, they held a brush with certainty. Before the leader commanded crowds, they first believed in their own voice. Before the dreamer built a future, they saw it clearly in their own mind. The world is a mirror, my dear ones. It will reflect back what you project. If you stand in doubt, it will surround you with obstacles. If you stand in confidence, it will open doors. And when you understand that, truly understand it, you will move differently. You will speak with conviction. You will pursue what is yours, not with hesitation, but with the knowledge that it was meant for you all along. So today I ask you, how do you see yourself? Not how others have seen you, not how the world has labeled you, but how you see yourself when no one is watching, when the noise dies down and you are left with only your own reflection. Stand tall, lift your head, let the world take notice. Because when you see yourself as worthy, when you walk in your power, the world will have no choice but to believe you. Listen not just with your ears, but with the deepest part of you, the part that dreams, the part that hopes, the part that still believes in the impossible, because I must tell you something that will change the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you move through this life. Limitations exist first in the mind. Shatter them, and the path clears. Too many people have been told no before they even tried, told they could not, would not, should not. And so they folded their dreams, packed them away, and settled for a life that fit inside someone else's small imagination. They built cages from words spoken long ago, words that were never true to begin with. But tell me, who decides what is possible? Who declares the limits of your life? Is it the ones who have never dared? The ones who have never reached beyond their own comfort? If they have never built what you dream of building, if they have never touched the sky you were born to reach, then how can they tell you where the limits are? I tell you this, the greatest walls in life are not made of stone, nor steel, nor unbreakable barriers. They are made of doubt, made of fear, made of the quiet voice that whispers, maybe I can't. But let me ask you, what happens when you stop listening? What happens when you push against those walls? When you lean into the resistance instead of backing away? I will tell you what happens. They crack, they crumble, they fall. And suddenly the road appears where before there was none. The way forward, always waiting, always open. If only you believe, you can take that first step. Think of those who came before you, those who changed the world, not because they were given permission, not because they had fewer obstacles, but because they refused to let limits define them. The ones who were told, no one has done this before, and answered, then I will be the first. A mind filled with doubt sees a locked door. A mind filled with belief sees a door that just needs the right key. And a mind filled with certainty, that mind sees no door at all, only an open path. So today I ask you, what limits have you accepted as truth? Who told you that you could not go further, reach higher, dream bigger? And more importantly, why did you believe them? If you wish to achieve, if you wish to step fully into the life meant for you, then you must be willing to break the walls built in your own mind. You must be willing to see beyond what others can see. Because the ones who change the world, the ones who rise, the ones who achieve what seemed impossible, They are not different from you. They are not stronger, smarter, luckier. They simply refuse to accept limits that were never real to begin with. You are no less capable than those who have soared before you. You are no less worthy than those who have walked paths of greatness. The only question left is, will you believe it? The world is full of voices, loud ones, soft ones, voices that build and voices that break. From the moment you came into this world, people have spoken over you, spoken about you, spoken at you. They have named you, claimed you, defined you. But let me tell you something that will change the way you carry yourself from this day forward. You are not what others call you. You are what you answer to. People will place labels on you like heavy stones in your pockets. Some will do it out of ignorance, some out of fear, and some because they have never learned how to see beyond their own small world. They will say you are too much or not enough. They will call you names that shrink you, words meant to hold you in place. But listen, my dear ones, just because someone hands you a name does not mean you have to wear it. When they call you unworthy, will you turn your head? When they call you incapable, will you bow to their judgment? Or will you stand tall and say, that is not my name, that is not my truth? Do you know how many dreams have been buried beneath the weight of someone else's opinion? How many bright minds have gone dim because they let the world define them? A child is told, you are not smart enough, and they carry that lie into adulthood. A dreamer is told, be realistic, and they trade their passion for a life that does not fit them. But I tell you now, the power is not in what they call you. The power is in what you believe. If they call you weak, but you know your strength, then their words are empty. If they call you foolish, but you see wisdom in your vision, then their voices are mere echoes in the wind. The world only has as much say over you as you allow. Think of those who have shaped history, not because they were invited to, not because they were handed a title, but because they refused to let the world name them. They stood in their truth, and the world had no choice but to adjust. They answered only to the name they chose for themselves: strong, capable, unbreakable. What names have you been carrying that do not belong to you? Who told you that you could not, and why did you listen? It is time, my dear ones, to release every false name, every whispered doubt, every misplaced label. It is time to answer only to the truth of who you are. Call yourself powerful. Call yourself worthy. Call yourself enough. And when the world asks, who do you think you are? You look them in the eye and say, I am everything I was meant to be. Because what I am about to tell you may be the very thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live. The road to achievement is not always smooth, nor is it always kind. There will be moments when the path seems blocked, when the weight feels too heavy, when doubt sits on your shoulder, whispering, maybe this is the end. But hear me now. Success begins when you refuse to see failure as final. Life will test you. Oh, it will test you in ways you never expected. In moments you thought would be easy, you will stumble. You will fall. There will be times when you give something your whole heart and still come up short. And in that moment, the world will wait to see what you will do next. Some will tell you, this is the sign, this is where you stop. They will say it wasn't meant for you. They will shake their heads and remind you of the ones who tried and failed before you. But let me ask you, who wrote the rule that says failure is the end? Who decided that one fall means you cannot rise again? I will tell you the truth. Failure is only final if you let it be. It is not a stop sign, it is a lesson. It is not a wall, it is a step. Every misstep, every setback, every so-called loss carries a gift inside of it, but only if you are willing to keep going. Think of the ones who have achieved greatness. Do you believe they never stumbled? Do you believe they never fell? No, my dear ones, they did not reach the mountaintop without first walking through the valley. They did not wake up one morning and find success waiting at their doorstep. They failed, they learned, and they rose again. A runner does not stop at the first stumble. A builder does not quit when the first brick falls. A dreamer does not abandon their vision just because the first attempt did not work. The ones who succeed, the ones who rise, the ones who achieve are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who refuse to stay down. So I ask you, what dream have you buried because of one failure? What goal have you abandoned because the first attempt did not go as planned? It is time to look at failure with new eyes. See it not as an enemy, but as a teacher. See it not as proof that you cannot, but as a sign that you are on the path. Because success is not about never falling. It is about standing up one more time than you fall. It is about trying again when the world says you should quit. It is about knowing deep in your bones that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey to it. So rise, dust yourself off, take another step. And when the world asks, why do you keep going? You tell them, because I am not finished yet. The world will hand you many reflections, but not all of them will be true. Some will show you a version of yourself that is too small, too dim, too broken. Some will take the light within you and cover it with shadows of doubt, fear, and hesitation. But hear me now. The mirror of self-perception is yours to polish, reflect greatness. There are those who wake up each morning and see only their flaws. They focus on the cracks, the scars, the places where they do not measure up. They walk through life carrying a reflection that is not their own, shaped by voices that do not belong to them. And so they hold themselves back, not because they lack talent, not because they lack ability, but because the mirror they are looking into is dirty with doubt. But tell me, what would happen if they wiped it clean? What if they dared to see themselves as they truly are, strong, capable, worthy? The way you see yourself will shape every step you take. If you see failure before you begin, you will hesitate. If you see weakness, you will shrink. But if you see power, if you see resilience, if you see a person who can and will rise, then there is nothing, absolutely nothing that can stand in your way. Do you know why some people achieve greatness while others stay standing in the same place? It is not because they are luckier. It is not because they have fewer challenges. It is because they look in the mirror and see a person who is meant for more. And so they walk toward that destiny with certainty. Too often, we wait for the world to confirm our worth. We wait for applause, for validation, for someone to tell us that we are enough. But tell me, why should you wait for someone else to hand you what has always been yours? Why should you let another person define a reflection that belongs only to you? Look at yourself, not through the lens of past failures, but through the promise of future victory. See not the times you have fallen, but the times you have risen. Do not measure yourself by the doubts of others, but by the dreams that live within you. Because the truth is this, what you see in yourself is what the world will see in you. If you walk with confidence, the world will believe in your strength. If you carry yourself with purpose, doors will open. If you reflect greatness, then greatness will follow you. So I ask you, what image have you been carrying? Is it one that lifts you or one that limits you? If it is the latter, it is time to polish that mirror, time to clear away the falsehoods, time to reflect the truth of who you are. Stand tall, see yourself clearly, and when the world looks at you, let them see nothing less than greatness. There will always be two voices within you, one that lifts you and one that holds you down. One that says you can and one that whispers, maybe you can't. One that builds dreams and one that tears them apart before they even begin. And the difference between those who rise and those who remain where they are is simple. Doubt is a visitor, belief is a foundation. Build on the ladder. Doubt will come. Oh, it will come. Dressed in many forms. It will arrive in the words of others, in the weight of past failures, in the silence of uncertainty. It will slip into your mind when you are on the edge of something great and tell you that you are not ready, not worthy, not enough. And if you listen too long, you will begin to believe it. You will start to build your life on hesitation, on fear, on waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. But let me tell you something. Doubt has no roots. It is a traveler, passing through, lingering only if you allow it. It is not the foundation of your life unless you make it so. Belief, however, belief is steady. It does not waver with the wind. It does not leave when challenges arise. It stands firm. It says, even if I do not see the way, I will take the first step. It says, even if I have stumbled before, I will rise again. It says, I do not need the world to tell me I am capable. I already know. Think of those who have achieved great things. Do you believe they never had doubt? Do you think they never faced moments where fear tried to convince them to turn back? Of course they did. But the difference is they did not build their lives on that doubt. They let it pass like a shadow in the night, and they kept going. What are you building your life on? Is it the shifting sand of hesitation or the solid ground of self-belief? Do you wake up in the morning and remind yourself of your strength, or do you let doubt whisper away your dreams before the day even begins? You have a choice. Always you have a choice. When doubt knocks at your door, will you invite it in, offer it a seat, let it take root in your heart? Or will you stand firm and say, you may pass through, but you will not stay? I build my life on belief. Because let me tell you this, those who believe in themselves move differently. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They do not pause when doubt appears. They walk forward, not because they have never known fear, but because they refuse to let it rule them. So I ask you now, what foundation will you stand on? Will you let doubt keep you in the same place year after year, or will you choose belief and take the step that changes everything? Stand firm, build on belief, and when the world asks how you kept going, tell them, because I never let doubt become my home. The journey to achievement is not walked alone. Though your feet may travel the path, though your hands may build the dream, you are not meant to move through this world in isolation. There will be moments of strength and moments of weakness. Moments when the fire inside you burns bright and moments when it flickers low. And in those moments, you must remember the company you keep shapes the limits you break. Look around you. Who stands beside you? Who whispers into your ear? Who holds your dreams in their hands? Because, my dear ones, the people in your circle are not just spectators in your life. They are architects, builders, shapers. They influence the walls you build and the ceilings you shatter. Some will lift you. Some will see the light in you, even when you have forgotten it yourself. Some will remind you of your greatness when the world tries to convince you otherwise. They will challenge you, push you, demand that you rise. These are the ones who see not only where you are, but where you are meant to go. But there are others. Oh yes, there are others. There are those who will shrink you, not because you are too much, but because they are too afraid. There are those who will plant doubt in your mind, not because they know your limits, but because they have never dared to test their own. They will say, are you sure? When you need someone to say, go for it. They will hand you fear when you need faith, and if you let them, they will anchor you in a life that was never meant to be yours. So I ask you, who do you walk with? Who do you allow into the sacred space of your dreams? Because the truth is this, you cannot carry the weight of doubt and the wings of belief at the same time. You must choose. If you surround yourself with those who believe, you will begin to believe. If you walk with those who rise, you will rise. If you sit among those who see no limits, you will stop seeing them too. But if you remain in a space where dreams are dismissed, where ambition is mocked, where fear is a language spoken too often, then, my dear ones, no matter how strong you are, that weight will begin to pull you down. Think of the great ones, the ones who have broken barriers, defied expectations, risen beyond measure. They did not do it alone. They walked with those who saw their vision, who fanned the flames when the fire burned low, who stood beside them when the world said, you cannot. So be mindful of your company. Choose those who challenge you to grow, who remind you of your purpose, who push you when you hesitate. Choose those who see your greatness even before you do. Because the right company does not just shape the road ahead, it shapes the very person you become. Stand with those who rise, and together break every limit in your path. You have heard the words, but now the time has come to live them. You have walked through the power of perception, the strength of belief, the courage to rise beyond failure, and the wisdom to choose the right voices in your life. Every dream you carry, every goal that burns within you, is waiting on one thing: your decision to step forward. Do not let doubt be your master. Do not let the world name you something less than what you are. Stand tall, see yourself clearly, and move with the unshakable knowing that you are capable, worthy, and destined for more. Remember, achievement is not reserved for the chosen few. It belongs to those who refuse to stop, those who refuse to see obstacles as endings, those who shape their own reflection and break the limits placed before them. So go forth with courage. Walk with purpose, speak with conviction, build the life you were meant to live. And when you look back, may you see not just a path, but a legacy of strength, of resilience, of undeniable greatness. Good luck on your journey. Believe in yourself, rise beyond every challenge, and never stop reaching for more. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time when the soul must rise up and meet the moment, not with noise, not with fanfare, but with quiet, unshakable resolve. There is a rhythm in the heart of every champion, a song that plays only when the world is loud, when the weight is heavy, when the light seems far. That rhythm says, "Still I rise." The mindset of a champion is not born in the cheers of a crowd, but in the silence of a hard morning. When the bed is warm, but the dream is warmer. It is not forged in gold, but in grit. It is built when nobody is watching. It is polished with pain. It stands tall, not because it never fell, but because it got up again and again and again. Champions are not born. They are built in silence, shaped by struggle and refined by resilience. That is the truth few are willing to whisper, and even fewer are willing to live. See, the world loves to marvel at the finish line. It claps for medals, it cheers for crowns, but it rarely stays long enough to see the start, the lonely, quiet, aching start where everything begins, where champions are made not in front of cameras, but in the dark, in the early hours, when the only sound is breath and will wrestling for control. A champion is not a person who had everything handed to them. They are the one who picked up what was broken, what was overlooked, what was told you can't, and answered, watch me. Their strength didn't bloom under sunlight. It was pressed out of them in storm after storm. It was in the days when they were exhausted but still showed up, when they were afraid but didn't shrink, when they were tired of trying but tried anyway. Because the mindset of a champion begins when you stop needing the world to understand your fire. When you decide that your dream is enough to carry you, even if the road is long and lonely. When the only witness to your effort is your own reflection, and still you give it everything. That's not talent. That's not luck. That's character. That's commitment stitched into the fabric of every step you take. People talk about natural gifts, and yes, some may be faster, stronger, more agile, but natural gifts are only seeds. What grows from them depends on what you feed them. Champions don't wait for the perfect soil. They grow where they are planted. They make do with what they have and turn it into something greater. They fall, they get bruised, they lose, and then they rise, not because it's easy, but because they've already decided they are not staying down. Struggle for a champion is not a curse. It is a classroom. It is where strength is taught and perseverance is tested. It's where the noise fades and you hear your own voice clearly saying, keep going, because that voice, your own inner grit, becomes louder than doubt, louder than fear, louder than the people who left or laughed or told you to quit, and silence, that sacred silence, becomes the forge. It's where a champion learns that applause is not the goal. Growth is, integrity is, doing the work even when nobody's clapping, even when no one sees, is the real measure. That's what separates those who wish from those who will. Then there is resilience, the polish on every champion's soul. It is not shiny, it is not soft, it is rough and raw and earned the hard way. It's the decision to show up to the next round even after defeat. It's the moment you tie your laces again when your body says no, but your purpose says yes. It's holding your head high, not because you haven't struggled, but because you have survived every struggle that tried to break you. A champion doesn't just fight opponents. They fight thoughts, they fight doubt, they fight comfort, and every time they choose discipline over distraction, every time they stay consistent when quitting would be easier, they build something unshakable in their spirit. That's what people don't see when the victory finally comes. The 100 losses that didn't stop them, the quiet days where the wind felt far, the nights they cried but trained anyway. That is the real glory. And it doesn't end with a title or a trophy, because the mindset of a champion isn't just for the ring, the field, or the court. It's a way of being. It's how you face your mornings, how you treat others, how you carry yourself when nobody's looking. It's choosing to grow through what you go through. It's answering pressure with purpose and setbacks with soul. So if you want the mindset of a champion, don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait to feel ready. Step into your silence. Embrace your struggle. Stand in your resilience. And remind yourself every single day, champions are built and you are building. A true champion sees failure not as a wall, but as a doorway to greatness. That shift right there is what separates the ones who fall and stay down from the ones who fall, rise, and come back sharper, stronger, unshaken in spirit. The champion does not fear failure because they've walked with it, sat with it, learned from it. They know that failure, when faced with honesty and courage, becomes a wise and silent teacher. Failure will knock the wind out of you. It will bruise your ego, steal your pride, and whisper lies in your ear. But the champion listens not to the lies, it listens to the lesson. Every loss, every missed shot, every moment that didn't go as planned is not the end of the story. It's the start of a new chapter. A champion understands that doors don't always open on the first push. Sometimes they creak. Sometimes they resist. But eventually, they open if you refuse to walk away. What many people call failure, a champion calls foundation. Because those painful moments, they build the floor you stand on later. You don't get to the peak without climbing, and you don't climb without slipping. Falling isn't proof you're weak, it's proof you're trying. And trying is the muscle of champions. When you trip, stumble, or fall hard, it hurts, yes. But what matters most is not that it happened. What matters is how you respond. Do you get bitter or do you get better? Do you let it close your heart or open your eyes? A champion chooses to turn every wound into wisdom, every misstep into a map. They don't run from failure. They face it with open hands saying, teach me, show me where I must grow. This mindset doesn't come overnight. It comes from losing again and again, and still lacing up your shoes the next morning. It comes from being counted out by others, but never by yourself. It comes from knowing that success is not a straight line, It is a winding road paved with rejection, setbacks, and silence. But the champion keeps walking. You see, failure humbles you. It reminds you that you are human, that you are in process, that you are becoming, and what a powerful thing it is to be becoming. Not already arrived, but growing. Not perfect, but persistent. Champions are not afraid to fall because they never confuse a fall with a finish. They know the difference between being knocked down and being counted out, and they never stay down for long. A champion's mind transforms pain into purpose. When others give up, they dig in. When others say, this is too much, they say, this is my moment. Not because they don't feel fear, but because they choose to move anyway. That choice, moment by moment, inch by inch, is what builds greatness. Champions look back at failure not with regret, but with respect, because they know it helped shape them. It trimmed their pride, it sharpened their focus, it gave them depth, and it gave them grit. No one reaches the top without stumbling on the way up, and the ones who make it, they carry their scars not with shame, but with strength. Every failure reminds them, you're still here, still standing, still rising. Failure is not a stop sign, it is a signal, a chance to reroute, to reflect, to refocus, but never to retreat. Champions understand that greatness demands more than talent. It demands endurance, it demands patience. It demands that when the world says no, you say not yet. So don't fear failure, don't let it freeze you, let it form you. Let it stretch you, strengthen you, wake up the fire inside you that says, I will not quit here. Because the ones who win are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who fall, feel it, and still find the courage to rise again and again and again. The truth is, failure is not your enemy, it is your entrance. And champions walk through it with their heads high and their hearts open, because they know every door worth walking through requires the strength to turn the handle. Discipline is the language champions speak when motivation has gone quiet. That's the secret most people don't want to hear. Motivation is loud, it comes in fast and burns bright. It feels good, it feels easy, but it doesn't last. It's a spark, not a flame. And when it flickers out, when the high fades, when your body aches and your mind doubts, that's when the voice of discipline steps in. Quiet, steady, unmoving. That voice says, do it anyway. Champions do not rise because they always feel like it. They rise because they decide to. They train when it's cold. They show up when it's hard. They practice when no one's clapping. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not loud. It's the small, unseen choices, the early mornings, the late nights, the 1,000 tiny commitments that nobody celebrates, but that build something unbreakable over time. Discipline is how a champion keeps walking after failure has knocked them down. It's how they respond on the days when their dreams feel far and their body feels heavy. Because it's easy to act when you're inspired. It's easy to push when the fire is fresh. But the champion mindset is built on what you do when the fire dims, when it's just you, your goal, and a long road ahead. Discipline is not a punishment. It is a promise you make to your future self, a quiet agreement between who you are now and who you are becoming. It is the difference between wishing and working. It does not wait for ideal conditions. It creates progress in imperfect ones. While others are waiting to feel ready, a champion is already moving. This kind of mindset demands focus. It demands repetition. It demands that you show up for yourself over and over again, even when progress is slow, even when doubt creeps in. A champion doesn't need perfect days to do the work. They just need the will to begin. And they begin again and again. That's the strength of discipline. It makes you reliable when emotions are not. The world often sees discipline as restriction, but for the champion, it is the opposite. It is freedom. Because with discipline, you are no longer a slave to mood. You're not ruled by the chaos of circumstances. You're grounded, rooted. You become your own structure, your own rhythm. You don't rely on the winds of outside energy. You build your own current and ride it, and that current is powerful. Because over time, those daily acts, those early hours, those repeated drills, those quiet decisions, they build momentum, and that momentum turns into mastery. That mastery turns into confidence, and that confidence turns into calm. When the storm comes, the disciplined mind is not shaken. It's already been here. It's already done the work. It doesn't panic, it prepares. A champion doesn't need someone watching to give their best. They don't need a crowd to perform because their discipline is internal. It's a code they carry, a standard they keep. Whether it's day 1 or day 1,000, they give everything. Not because it's expected, but because it's who they are. Even when they're tired, they stretch. Even when they're sore, they push. Even when progress is invisible, they trust the path. And that trust, that quiet faith in the process, that's what discipline looks like. Not perfection, not endless energy, just consistency. Just showing up again and again, even when the heart is heavy and the reward seems far. Discipline turns intentions into action, action into habits, and habits into legacy. Champions know this. They don't chase motivation like a balloon in the wind. They anchor themselves in purpose. And every time they honor that purpose with effort, they move closer to the version of themselves that the world will one day applaud. But long before the applause, long before the medal, long before the final round, they've already won. Because they chose the hard thing when the easy thing called. They chose the climb when comfort whispered rest. They spoke the language of discipline when motivation had nothing left to say. And in the quiet, with no eyes watching, they became unstoppable. Champions don't chase applause, they chase purpose. That truth sits at the center of everything they do. Applause is temporary. It's loud for a moment, then gone. It rises like smoke, then fades into silence. But purpose endures. Purpose is the fire that never goes out. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't wait for validation. It simply is. And champions, real champions, build their lives around it. The world teaches us to seek praise, to measure our worth by how many eyes are watching, how many hands are clapping. But the mindset of a champion walks a different path. It does not need permission to be powerful. It does not perform for approval. It performs because it has something deeper, something greater calling it forward. And that call is not about being seen. It's about becoming. The champion understands something the crowd never will, that real greatness happens in the dark. When there's no cheering, no spotlight, just raw effort and quiet commitment. Purpose, not praise, is what gets them up in the morning. It's what keeps them steady when the noise dies down. Because they know the applause is just an echo, it can never be the reason. The applause will not carry you through your hardest days. It will not whisper to you in the early morning silence when your body aches and your spirit feels thin. It will not stand beside you when you fail or fall short, but purpose will. Purpose is loyal, it stays, it grows deeper the more you give to it, and the more you give, the more you become. When you chase applause, you run in circles. You exhaust yourself trying to please everyone, trying to be seen. But champions don't waste time chasing opinions. They don't shape themselves for approval. They own who they are and what they've come to do. They walk with a knowing, a quiet power, a grounded presence that says, I know why I'm here. That knowing becomes armor. Because there will be critics. There will be moments when the cheers turn to silence or worse, to doubt. But the champion is not swayed by outside noise. They don't need applause to feel progress. They don't need recognition to know their worth. Their purpose is rooted in something internal, something bigger than applause can ever reach. Purpose gives weight to the grind. It makes the hard work meaningful. It turns repetition into devotion. It transforms pain into proof that you're on the right path. Because when you're driven by purpose, you don't just want to win. You want to become someone worthy of the victory. That shift changes everything. It means you train when no one's watching. You give your best when it won't be seen. You hold yourself to a standard higher than what others expect, not because you want applause, but because you respect the mission. That mission is your why. And when your why is strong, nothing can move you. Not failure, not rejection, not even success. Because you're not climbing just to be clapped for. You're climbing because the top is calling your name. So choose carefully, choose with love, and then choose again. Keep becoming, speak to yourself like you matter, because you do. That's not a suggestion, that's a necessity. You cannot build a life of wholeness with the language of shame. You cannot grow strong while tearing yourself down in the quiet. Change doesn't just happen in your behavior, it begins in your voice. The one no one hears but you, in the way you talk to yourself, in the stillness, in the mirror, in the middle of the mess. That's where the true shift starts. You've been told to be humble, you've been taught not to brag, but somewhere along the way, too many of us turned humility into self-neglect. We started mistaking silence for strength and self-criticism for motivation. Let me tell you something, there is nothing noble about calling yourself names. There is nothing strong about carrying your shame like a badge. If you want to change your behavior, you must first change the way you speak over your own life, because your words are seeds, and your mind, that's the soil. What you plant grows. You keep telling yourself you're lazy, you'll stop believing it. You keep calling yourself broken, you'll stop reaching for healing. But if you start saying, I'm learning, you'll start growing. If you whisper, I'm worthy, something sacred begins to rise in you. Don't just change what you do, change what you say. You are not your mistakes. You are not your bad habits. You are not the moments when you didn't show up as your best self. You are a human being, complex, growing, worthy of grace. Speak to yourself like you know that. Like you know you're someone who deserves kindness, even from your own voice, especially from your own voice. And I know it's not easy. Maybe you grew up hearing harsh words. Maybe the world has fed you lies about your value and you swallow them just to survive. But survival is not the same as living. And now if you want to live fully, if you want to rise and stay risen, you must unlearn those lies. You must rewrite the script. And that starts with your language. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to stand in front of a crowd and declare your greatness. But in the moments when you feel small, you need to know how to speak life to your own soul. In the mornings when it's hard to move, you need to know how to say, I'm proud of you for trying. In the moments when you fall short, you need to say, this doesn't define me. That's how change takes root, not in punishment, but in compassion. When a child is learning to walk, we don't yell at them when they fall. We cheer for the effort. We hold out our hands and say, try again. Why can't you offer yourself that same tenderness? Why do you think you deserve less love just because you're grown? Growth is still fragile. It still needs soft soil and warm words. The truth is, you can't bully yourself into a better life. You can't shame yourself into wholeness. But you can speak to yourself in a way that encourages movement. You can remind yourself daily that change is possible. You can create a new internal rhythm where the default voice is not doubt, but hope. Because that voice, it follows you everywhere. It's there when you start the new habit. It's there when you stumble. It's there when no one's watching and you're deciding whether to give up or keep going. And if that voice is cruel, you will struggle to rise. But if that voice is kind, if it's patient and firm and rooted in love, then you will move with power. So listen to yourself. And when the voice is harsh, challenge it. When it's doubtful, answer it. When it says you can't, respond with, watch me. You don't need to be perfect to deserve kindness. You just need to be real. Be real and be kind over and over until your inner voice becomes a place of safety, not war. That's where change lives, in how you talk to yourself when things get hard. Let your words become your wings. You don't need to feel ready to begin. That's the lie we've all been sold. The one that says motivation must strike like lightning, that you must wait for the right time, the perfect mood, the stars to align before you take that first step. But the truth is readiness is a feeling that shows up after the action, not before it. Waiting to feel ready is how dreams get delayed and lives get smaller. If you keep waiting for the day you feel like changing, you'll be waiting forever. Because feelings are fickle, they rise and fall like tides, they shift with your sleep, your mood, your hormones, the weather. But change? Real change isn't built on how you feel in a moment. It's built on a decision. A quiet decision that says, even if I don't feel ready, I'll begin anyway. You may not feel brave when you take that first step. You may not feel clear. You may not even feel confident. But your feet can move while your heart is trembling. And you will be surprised how strong you are once you stop waiting for certainty and start walking in faith. Action births confidence. Movement creates momentum. The readiness you seek isn't hiding in the distance. It's waiting for you on the other side of motion. You have to learn to move without permission from your emotions. That doesn't mean ignoring how you feel. It means not letting your feelings be the gatekeepers of your progress. You can honor your fear and still do the thing. You can acknowledge your doubt and still take the step. It's not about pretending to be fearless. It's about doing the work while fear rides in the back seat, but not the driver's seat. You've done hard things before. You've stepped into the unknown before. Maybe you didn't feel ready then either, but you made it. You adjusted. You found strength you didn't know you had. That's proof. That's your reminder that readiness is not a prerequisite, it's a reward. Change is a decision, not a feeling. It starts with a choice to move forward while your hands still shake, to show up on the days you'd rather disappear, to take the first small step knowing it might not be perfect, but it will be something. And that something, that's the beginning of everything. We've been taught that motivation is the spark that lights the fire. But sometimes the fire starts with discipline. Sometimes you strike the match with trembling fingers and trust that the flame will come. You lace up your shoes and take the walk. You open the book and read the first page. You put the phone down and breathe. These aren't grand moves, but they matter. They're signals. They're signs to your own spirit that say, I'm ready to become. Not because you feel like it, but because you're worth it. Because the version of you that you want to become is waiting, not for perfect timing, not for loud confidence, but for this moment, right now. This moment is enough. You are enough. And even if the change feels distant, the decision is near. It's right here in your hands. And yes, it will feel awkward at first, uncertain, unnatural. That's okay. All beginnings do. Every masterpiece once looked like a mess in the middle. Every confident person was once uncertain. Every habit started as an inconvenience. You will not always feel like changing, but you can still act like someone who is changing. That's how transformation begins, by moving before you're ready and trusting that readiness will meet you along the way. You don't need more motivation, you need more motion. Let the action lead the feeling. Let the doing shape the becoming. And when the doubts whisper, you're not ready, whisper back. But I'm starting anyway. Because the truth is, readiness is not the requirement. Willingness is. And you, even with your nerves and your questions and your trembling hands, you are more than willing. You are already becoming. Keep going. Be patient with the becoming. That's what most folks forget when they talk about change. They want it to be quick, clean, convenient. They want to wake up one morning with new habits stitched in like second skin and old behaviors gone like they never existed. But baby, transformation doesn't work that way. Becoming is a process, not a moment. It's not a switch you flip. It's a slow burning light that learns to glow steadier every day you decide to keep walking. You have to give yourself time to become someone new, time to unlearn, time to unravel the old stories you've lived by for years, and none of that happens overnight. This is the deep work, the kind that doesn't always show up on the outside, but rewrites everything on the inside. So let go of the need to rush. Let go of the lie that says you're falling behind just because your growth isn't loud or fast. Real change is quiet. It's layered. It takes root in silence before it ever blooms in public. This isn't a race. It's a return to your truest self, and that journey is sacred. It needs space, it needs softness. You don't pull a flower from the earth and shout at it to grow faster. You water it, you protect it, you let the sun do its work. Do the same for yourself. Because no matter how long it takes, every small effort is working, even when it feels invisible. You might have days when you slide back into old ways. That doesn't mean you've failed. That doesn't erase the progress you've made. Change isn't linear. It's full of detours and dips, and every step back is a chance to practice grace. Growth doesn't mean you never fall. It means you know how to rise, kind of this time. More aware, more equipped. Some people will not understand the pace of your becoming. That's all right. They don't have to. You're not here to meet their timeline. You're here to meet yourself. Over and over, to show up for your healing, to choose your peace, to build a life rooted in truth, not urgency. You're not behind, you're becoming. And that's a powerful thing. There will be moments when you wonder if anything's changing, when the results feel slow and the work feels endless, but keep going. The shift is happening. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, every time you notice the trigger before it takes hold, every time you speak to yourself with compassion instead of criticism. These are the quiet victories that shape who you're becoming. These are the moments that matter, and you don't need to have it all figured out to be on the right path. You just need to stay faithful to the small, deliberate choices that align with who you want to be. Trust that the process is working, even when it moves at the pace of a whisper. Trust that the foundation you're laying now will hold you up when the storms come, because they will come, but you will not be the same. You will be rooted, not because you rushed, but because you stayed, because you waited and worked and gave yourself the grace to be messy while you transformed. That's the kind of strength that lasts, the kind built in silence, the kind born from patience. So don't measure your progress by how far you still have to go. Measure it by how much closer you are than yesterday. Measure it by your willingness to keep showing up. That's the true proof of change, not perfection, but presence. Keep being present with yourself. Keep watering what you planted. The bloom will come. And when it does, it will not be because you pushed yourself harder. It will be because you loved yourself through the becoming. That's what makes the difference. Let yourself unfold. So here you are, standing in the light of your own becoming. Not perfect, not finished, but beautifully in motion. You've heard the truth that change is not a thunderclap, but a soft and steady rhythm. It's in the small steps, the kind words, the silent victories. It's in choosing yourself again and again, even when no one else sees. It's not about waiting for the right time. It's about deciding that now is enough. You are enough. May you walk forward with grace. May you speak life to your reflection. May you let go of the need to rush and trust the quiet power of your own pace. Every breath, every choice, every moment of patience is building something sacred in you. Don't stop now, keep becoming. Thank you for listening, for leaning in, for choosing the path of growth even when it's hard. I believe in the strength you carry and the beauty of what you're creating within. May your journey forward be kind, bold, and true. Good luck. And above all, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something mighty powerful about being human, a stillness beneath the storm, a song beneath the silence. Now, I won't stand here and tell you this journey is easy. Life comes at us fast, loud, and sometimes cold. But oh, we are born with a fire. Yes, a quiet fire that burns not to destroy, but to reveal, to open the curtain on this grand stage of living and ask, with trembling lips and steadfast heart, who am I beneath all this noise? You see, being human is more than having hands that can build and voices that can shout. It is the tender whisper that stirs when the world grows quiet. It is the ache you feel when a child laughs or when someone you love walks away. It's the rhythm of your spirit, tapping out truths your mouth has yet to speak. Consciousness, my friends, is not just being awake. It is the rising sun of awareness in a world lulled to sleep. It is knowing that your breath is borrowed from the stars and your bones are carved from history. It is realizing that every soul you meet carries a story, some soft, some hard, all worthy of being heard. There comes a moment quiet and unannounced when we find ourselves standing before the still water of our own soul. No noise, just the soft hum of being. And in that moment, if we are brave enough to look, we meet the reflection of something deeper than the flesh we wear. Consciousness is the mirror where your true self waits to be seen, not judged, not reshaped, simply seen. And how often we pass by that mirror, distracted by what the world demands us to be, rather than pausing to ask who we are becoming. From the time we learn to speak, we are taught names, labels, roles. We are told what is right, what is wrong, what is expected. And slowly, piece by piece, we trade authenticity for approval. We wear masks so well, we forget the skin beneath them. We memorize the lines, but lose the meaning. And still, somewhere within, something keeps whispering, soft, steady, patient. That whisper is your consciousness, gently pulling you back toward the truth you were born with. To see your true self, you must be willing to remove the layers, to peel back the opinions of others, the fear of rejection, the ache of old wounds. It is not always pretty work. In fact, it can be raw, it can be lonely, and it can shake you to your core. But when you begin to face that mirror, not the mirror of the world, but the one of awareness, you will start to see not what you've been told you are, but what you've always been underneath it all. You are not the roles you play, not your mistakes, not your achievements, not your resume or your reputation. You are not the applause you receive, nor the silence you sometimes endure. You are a soul, knowing, resilient. You are the observer of your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. You are the one who notices the storm, not the storm. And once you grasp that, truly grasp it, something inside you begins to soften, to bloom, because consciousness doesn't shout, it invites. It doesn't rush, it waits. And when you turn toward it with humility and curiosity, you begin to live in a new way. You start responding instead of reacting. You begin to listen not just to others, but to the quiet truths within. You begin to recognize yourself not just in your strength, but in your tenderness, not just in your voice, but in your silence. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about remembering that being human is not a performance, it's a practice, a sacred unfolding. And the more you see yourself clearly, the more you can see others too, not as strangers, not as threats, but as fellow travelers, each carrying their own mirrors, each trying to make sense of the same mystery. So do not run from yourself. Do not cover your eyes when the mirror appears. The reflection might startle you, it might even scare you, but it will also set you free. And when you finally lock eyes with your truest self, you will know without doubt, without noise, that you have touched the very essence of being human. Returning to that mirror, your soul is waiting to be seen. To be human is to hold both pain and beauty in the same breath. That right there is the heartbeat of our existence. We are not creatures of one note. We are symphonies of contradiction. We laugh through our tears. We dance while carrying sorrow. We love, even with broken hearts. That is not weakness. That is the essence of being truly alive. There is something breathtaking about the way we can break and still rise. Life does not come to us gently. It comes with lessons wrapped in struggle, in loss, in the sting of moments we wish we could rewrite. But it also brings us sunsets that hush the soul, laughter that bursts out without warning, and the kind of love that leaves fingerprints on the spirit. We hold both all the time. That is what makes us human. Pain is not the enemy, it is a messenger. It shows up not to punish, but to reveal. It asks us to slow down, to feel, to listen to the places we've been avoiding. And beauty? Beauty does not wait for everything to be perfect. It does not only visit the joyful, it finds its way into the cracks. It glows quietly in the middle of our mess. We can be grieving and still find ourselves stopped in our tracks by the way light falls across a face we love. We can be in doubt and still marvel at the sound of a child's laugh echoing through a room. Beauty is not the absence of pain, it is the companion that walks beside it. Sometimes we try so hard to separate the two, to box our emotions, to keep things clean and neat, but the soul doesn't work that way. It wants to feel it all. And when we allow ourselves to do that, to sit with our hurt, to honor our joy, we begin to understand the richness of being alive. That fullness, that depth, is where consciousness lives, not in pretending, not in hiding, but in feeling, fully, bravely, deeply. When we embrace both our light and our shadow, we become real, not just in the eyes of others, but in the sacred space within ourselves. And once you've tasted that kind of honesty, that kind of presence, you stop settling for shallow living. You stop pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. You stop numbing yourself from pain because you begin to understand it is the very thing that carves out more room for joy. Like the ocean, we are made of waves, some gentle, some crashing, but all part of the same vast soul. You do not have to choose between strength and softness. You can be both. You are both. You can feel sorrow and still be standing in grace. You can fall apart and still be made of wonder. This is not a flaw in your design. It is a feature of your humanity. It means you're alive. It means you're awake. And when we stop judging our pain, we also stop hoarding our beauty. We begin to share ourselves more openly, more authentically. We begin to see each other not through the narrow lens of what we project, but through the wide eyes of compassion. We start to understand that everyone we meet is carrying something and still showing up. That is sacred. That is strength. So let yourself feel it all. Let the pain teach you and the beauty soothe you. Don't rush to fix it. Don't try to explain it away. Just breathe with it. That's the brave work. That's the human work. And it is truly beautiful. Awareness is not a destination, but a daily returning home to yourself. It doesn't come wrapped in fireworks or stand high on a mountain waiting for applause. It comes in the quiet moments when you pause before speaking, when you catch your breath before reacting, when you choose to listen instead of proving a point. That is awareness. That is the soft power that grows not by force, but by attention. We live in a world that pulls us in 1,000 directions, voices telling us to go faster, be better, do more. But in the rush to arrive somewhere, anywhere, we often forget to ask if the road we're on is even ours. We forget to ask if we're living by choice or by habit, and that is why awareness is not a final stop. It's a return to presence, a return to truth, a return to that still center within you that remembers who you are even when the world forgets. To live consciously is not to have all the answers. It is to stay awake to the questions. It is the willingness to look within even when it's uncomfortable. It's the courage to notice when you're not being honest with yourself. And it's the grace to begin again as many times as it takes. That's what makes it a practice, not a performance. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. Each day gives us that choice to come home, to return, to take a deep breath and ask, am I present? Am I aligned with what matters? Am I acting from love or fear? And when you do that, when you check in with your soul instead of just your schedule, you begin to notice the shift. Life doesn't get easier, but it becomes clearer, more grounded, more meaningful. You start to find moments of beauty in things you once rushed past. You start to notice your own patterns, not with shame, but with curiosity. You begin to walk through life not just reacting, but responding with depth, with care, with presence. That's the kind of awareness that changes you, not in one sweeping motion, but in small, consistent ways, like water shaping rock, like light creeping through the cracks, slowly, silently, powerfully. That kind of awareness teaches you to slow down enough to hear your intuition speak. It shows you where you're out of alignment, not to punish you, but to invite you home. Because when you are home within yourself, you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to chase validation. You don't need to wear masks to be loved. You simply live from your truth and let that truth guide your steps. That's when you stop surviving. That's when you stop being lost in the noise and begin to sing your own song quietly, honestly, beautifully. So don't wait for the big breakthrough to be conscious. Look for it in the ordinary, in the way you speak to yourself, in the space you give to others, in the stillness between each breath. Let your awareness bring you home, not once, not just in the grand moments, but again and again, day after day, moment by moment. And each time you return, you come back a little more whole. Your soul speaks in silence. Listen before the world gets too loud. That voice within, the one that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't plead, it waits quietly, gently, always there, just beneath the surface of the noise. And yet we so often miss it, not because it hides, but because we don't know how to be still long enough to hear. The world we live in is not designed for silence. It rushes, it buzzes, it talks over itself. It teaches us to measure our worth in decibels, in how much attention we can get, how loudly we can speak, how often we can stay busy. But the soul doesn't move that way. It isn't in the chaos. It's in the space between thoughts. It's in the breath before word. It's in the pause that asks us to turn inward, to check in, to remember, and that remembering is everything. Because no matter how far we run from ourselves, the soul doesn't chase us. It simply waits. It waits until we get tired of the noise, until the applause fades and the lights dim, and all we have left is the quiet ache of our own unmet truth. That's when the soul begins to speak. Not in sentences, but in feeling, in the tug of intuition, in the warmth of alignment, in the chill that warns us something's not right. But we have to be still enough to catch it. We have to be present enough to listen. And that's hard when the world keeps telling us to move faster, to keep going, to push through. Yet it is in the quiet that the real answers live, the ones that can't be Googled, the ones that don't come from anyone else's mouth, the ones only your spirit can give you. And when you do listen, when you create space, when you slow down, what you find is not emptiness. You find clarity, you find grounding, you find yourself. You begin to see that everything you were chasing outside was already alive within. And in that stillness, decisions get easier, not because the path becomes simple, but because you're no longer split. You're no longer at war with yourself. You're no longer silencing your truth just to be accepted or understood. Listening to your soul doesn't mean ignoring others. It means being in tune with yourself so deeply that you can show up in the world with honesty, not pretense. It means knowing when to speak and when to hold silence like a prayer. It means honoring the nudges, the pulls, the subtle signs that whisper, this is who you are. This is where you belong. So, find your stillness. Make room for it. Protect it. Even if it's just a few minutes a day. Even if it's just one deep breath before the next task. Because that breath could be the difference between living a life that looks right and living a life that feels right. And your soul knows the difference. It always has. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to perform to be worthy. Your soul has been speaking all along. All you need to do is listen. Growth begins the moment you dare to question your own shadow. Not the shadow others have cast over you, but the one you've carried quietly, the part of you you've avoided. The truths you've tucked away, the feelings you've labeled too heavy to hold. We all have them. We all live with pieces of ourselves we don't want to look at. But real growth, lasting and deep, does not bloom in denial. It begins in courage. The kind that sits with discomfort, the kind that listens when it would be easier to walk away. We spend so much time polishing the parts of ourselves we want the world to see, the strength, the wisdom, the kindness. And those parts are real, no doubt, but they are not the whole story. There's another side, a quieter one, filled with the fears we don't name, the patterns we repeat without understanding why, the wounds we carry like secrets. These shadows are not here to shame us. They are here to teach us. Because everything we ignore begins to grow in silence. The pain we bury, the insecurities we mask, the anger we suppress, all of it waits, and eventually it rises, not to destroy, but to be known. The moment we turn toward it, the moment we say, I see you, that's when something shifts, not immediately, not without effort, but deeply. That's where transformation begins, not in pretending, but in seeing. Not in blaming, but in owning. To question your shadows, to ask, where did this come from? Why does this hurt? What am I afraid of? It's about sitting with those questions, not rushing to answer them. And it's about holding yourself with gentleness, even as you unravel. It's not about fixing who you are. It's about understanding the layers, the stories, the survival habits that shaped you. And in that understanding, you begin to soften. You begin to forgive not just others, but yourself. And you start to see that the parts of you you once rejected are not your enemies. They are signals. They are maps. They are messengers pointing you back to wholeness. And once you begin that journey, you cannot help but grow, because growth is not about perfection. It's not about rising without falling. It's about rising with the fall. It's about becoming more honest, more present, more compassionate, not just toward others, but toward yourself. It's easy to love your light, but the real freedom comes when you can hold your shadow with that same love. That's when you stop needing to prove your worth. That's when you stop hiding your truth just to belong. That's when you start walking through life with integrity, with rootedness, with peace. This is what it means to awaken, to return home, not just to the beautiful parts, but to all of you. It means realizing that you are not broken, you are becoming. That your wounds are not flaws, they are places of potential. That the shadow is not there to pull you down, but to call you deeper. So don't be afraid of your own darkness. Don't rush to cover it up. Lean in, get curious, there's growth there, quiet, sacred, and waiting. And that too is a work of being human. You are not here just to exist, you are here to awaken. And there is a difference, a wide and sacred difference. Existing is moving through days on autopilot, checking boxes, doing what's expected. It's waking up tired, going to sleep numb, and wondering if there's more. Awakening is something else entirely. It's when you begin to feel the fire of your own spirit rise through the fog of routine. It's when you start to question the pace, the purpose, the patterns that once defined you. Awakening is not a sudden moment of light. It's a slow unfolding, a quiet cracking open. It's often born from discomfort, from that restlessness in your chest, that whisper that says, surely there's something deeper than this. And that whisper is not wrong. That's your soul nudging you, urging you to wake up. Not just with your eyes, but with your heart, with your truth, with your full being. The world may try to convince you that survival is enough, that getting through the day is all there is. But the essence of being human is not about enduring, it's about becoming, about evolving, about rising again and again into your fullest presence. And you don't need permission to begin. You don't need a grand sign. You just need to notice, to pay attention, to pause long enough to hear what your life has been trying to tell you. Every moment is a doorway. Every breath is a choice. You can move through this world half asleep, or you can awaken to what's already inside you, waiting to be heard, waiting to be felt, waiting to be lived. That voice within, the same one that speaks in silence, the same one that lives beneath your shadow, the same one that calls you to come home to yourself. It does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. That's where awakening begins. It's in how you greet yourself in the mirror. It's in how you respond when fear shows up. It's in the small decisions, the quiet resistance to stay numb, the gentle shift toward awareness. You don't need to climb a mountain or cross an ocean to awaken. You just need to open your eyes to the life you're already in and ask, am I living this with intention? Awakening doesn't mean your life becomes easy. It means you become honest. It means you stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for your soul. It means you stop waiting for the world to tell you who you are. Because once you begin to wake up, truly wake up, you see with different eyes. You feel more deeply. You choose more intentionally. And slowly, beautifully, you become the author of your own existence. It's not a path paved with certainty. It's not always soft, but it is yours. And that's what makes it sacred. The awakened life is not about knowing all the answers. It's about learning to live the questions. It's about showing up each day willing to feel, willing to grow, willing to change. You may stumble, you may fall back asleep for a while, but each time you wake up again, you rise a little stronger, a little clearer, a little more alive. So let the world rush if it must, let the noise blare and the expectations press. You are here for something deeper, something real, something that echoes far beyond existence. You are here to awaken. So now, as we stand at the edge of this journey we've just walked together, I ask you to remember being human is not a flaw, it is a miracle. A breathing, weeping, laughing, questioning, healing miracle. You are not here by accident. You are not too much, not too little. You are here to feel, to grow, to listen deeply, to rise from your pain, to walk in your truth, and to awaken to the brilliance that has always lived inside you. Don't let the noise of the world drown out the quiet wisdom of your soul. Keep returning to yourself. Keep choosing presence. Keep daring to live fully, even in the face of uncertainty. Let your life be a reflection of conscious living, not rushed survival. Let your heart stay open, even when it trembles. Let your spirit remain wild, even in a world that tries to tame it. Because the essence of being human is not in perfection, it's in the courage to keep becoming. Thank you for allowing your heart to sit with these words. Thank you for showing up for yourself, for your journey, for the world that needs your light. May you walk forward with grace, with clarity, and with an unshakable knowing that you are more than enough. Good luck on your path, and from the depths of my soul, thank you. Dear friends, there is a beauty that does not roar and yet it fills the room. There is a strength that does not shout and yet it carries the world. When we quiet ourselves and allow the heart to speak, in silence we discover a grace that cannot be measured. It is in that stillness that love breathes. It is in that quiet space that we come to know the depth of what it means to truly live. Too often we search for proof of love in the loud applause or the spoken promise. Yet love is not always found in words. Love does not always need to be declared in public or painted in bright colors for all to see. Sometimes love shows itself in the way someone listens. Sometimes it appears in the way someone waits for you without complaint. Sometimes it lives in the tender pause between two souls when nothing is said but everything is understood. Silence is not emptiness. It is not the absence of meaning. Silence is a vessel. It carries the unsaid. It holds the unshaken faith. It carries the quiet endurance of the soul. To sit in silence with someone you love is to be reminded that the truest bond does not always demand sound. When love is true, it does not rush to prove itself. It breathes softly. It breathes patiently. It breathes without demand. Silence holds the deepest truths that words often fail to capture. We live in a world where people are rushing to speak, rushing to explain, rushing to prove what they feel. Yet so often the truth of the heart slips away in the flood of words. There are moments when speech seems too small to carry the weight of love, too shallow to touch the soul of another. In those moments, silence becomes the language that speaks most clearly. It is in the quiet that the spirit of love reveals itself in its most honest form. When you sit with someone you love and no words are spoken, yet the air between you feels full, that is the power of silence. It does not need to decorate itself with clever phrases or polished promises. It does not need to fill the space with explanations. Silence simply allows love to stand as it is, pure and unadorned. This is why silence can be trusted, because it does not bend itself to impress or persuade. It carries no mask. It simply holds what is real. Think of a sunrise. It does not announce itself with noise, yet the world awakens in awe. Think of the ocean. It does not need to speak for us to feel its immensity. Love in silence has the same majesty. It does not boast, but it surrounds us. It does not argue, but it comforts us. It does not clamor, but it fills the heart with certainty. The most powerful truths do not need to be shouted. They are understood in the quiet stillness where nothing is forced. Too often we lean on words as proof of affection. We want to hear promises repeated again and again, but promises are fragile things if they are not supported by presence. Silence, when filled with genuine love, becomes a promise stronger than words. It says, I am here. It says, I am steady. It says, I am with you without condition. There is no need to carve these words into sound. because the silence itself breathes them out with every heartbeat. The truth that silence carries is not only for love between people, it is also for the love we hold for life itself. In moments of quiet reflection, when the world has hushed and the noise has faded, we meet ourselves honestly. We come face to face with what truly matters. No distractions, no false appearances, only the truth that has waited patiently to be heard. This is where clarity is born. This is where decisions are made with wisdom. Silence guides us not by instructing, but by allowing us to listen inwardly to the voice that has always been with us. When we honor silence, we honor love's natural way of breathing. Love does not suffocate when it is not spoken. In fact, it often grows stronger when it is allowed to rest in stillness. It becomes steady like roots beneath the earth, unseen but unshakable. Words may pass away, but the silence of true love remains. It does not depend on the constant noise of affirmation. It breathes in the pauses, in the glances, in the quiet nearness of two souls who need no performance to prove what is already known. The deepest truths cannot always be translated into language, for words are limited. How can a phrase contain the depth of a lifetime? How can a sentence express the eternal patience of love? Silence, in its simplicity, holds what words cannot. It carries the unmeasurable, it honors the sacred, it respects the mystery of love. To lean into silence is to trust that love speaks for itself without needing constant defense. Let us not be afraid of the stillness that surrounds us. Let us not run from silence as though it is empty. It is not emptiness, it is fullness unspoken. It is the gentle keeper of the truths that matter most. In silence we find honesty, in silence we find peace, and in silence we discover that love has been breathing all along. And so when words fall short, let silence carry what the heart has always known. Love breathes most freely when given space in stillness. There is a certain freedom that love longs for, a quietness that allows it to expand without pressure, without demand, without the weight of constant explanation. Love, when forced to prove itself at every moment, becomes weary. It cannot breathe when it is chained to the need for endless declarations. But when silence enters the room, when stillness surrounds it, love takes its natural breath. It inhales trust, it exhales peace. It rests in the calm assurance that it is enough. There is a grace in letting love be without rushing to adorn it with words. The most sacred bonds do not require constant sound to be alive. In fact, they thrive in the spaces where nothing is said, where silence becomes a sanctuary. In that sanctuary, love is not hurried. It is not performing for an audience. It is simply being what it was always meant to be, steady, enduring, and present. Stillness allows love to breathe its own rhythm, unshaken by the noise of expectation. Think of two people sitting together, no conversation filling the air, no speeches trying to prove the strength of their bond. Yet, in that quiet, something profound is alive. Their hearts communicate in a language no words can imitate. That silence is not empty. It is filled with the soundless beating of love itself, breathing easily because no one is forcing it into the cage of expression. When love is given silence, it does not suffocate, it flourishes. Stillness does not mean absence. It is not neglect, it is presence in its purest form. It means I am with you and that is enough. It means I trust you to feel my love even when I do not speak. It means I allow you the freedom to rest beside me without expectation. Love needs this kind of stillness because without it, it drowns in noise. Too many words, too many demands, too many explanations smother what love is at its core. Gentle, patient, enduring. The world tells us that love must always be loud to be real. It must be proclaimed, posted, shared, and repeated. But love is not louder when it is broadcast. Love is stronger when it is steady, and steadiness is born in stillness. When love is allowed to breathe in silence, it grows roots that go deeper than performance, deeper than decoration, deeper than the reach of words. It becomes something no one else can shake because it is not dependent on sound but on presence. In silence, love finds its courage. It learns to trust without needing proof every moment. It learns to endure without seeking constant reassurance. It learns to breathe without fear of suffocation. This is why stillness is a gift. It is the space where love proves itself by simply surviving without noise. It is where two souls learn to rest in each other's presence, to know without asking, to feel without demanding. Silence gives love its wings. And this truth is not only for love between two people, it is for the love we hold for life, for dreams, for ourselves. When we give stillness to our own hearts, when we pause long enough to breathe, we remember why we began, we remember what matters. Love for life itself breathes most freely when we allow quiet moments of reflection. The silence does not weaken our journey. It strengthens it. It gives us clarity. It allows us to move forward without confusion. So let us not fear stillness. Let us not run from silence as though it steals something from us. It does not steal, it restores. It does not weaken. It strengthens. It does not hide love. It reveals it. For when love is free to breathe in silence, it becomes what it was always meant to be, true, unshaken, and everlasting. And so may we trust the stillness, for in it love finds its breath. Quiet presence speaks louder than constant declarations. There is something profoundly powerful about being with someone without the need to prove yourself with endless words. Presence, in its stillness, carries a weight that no declaration can match. Words may be beautiful, they may bring comfort, but they are fleeting, vanishing into the air as soon as they are spoken. Presence, however, remains. It stands as a living testimony that love does not always need to be proclaimed to be real. It simply is steady and undeniable. When you sit with a person who loves you, you begin to realize that silence does not mean absence. In fact, silence filled with presence is more eloquent than the loudest speeches. Someone may tell you they love you 1,000 times, yet if they are not there when you need them, those words dissolve into emptiness. On the other hand, someone may not always say the words, but they are there, quietly, consistently, faithfully. Their presence becomes the language of love, spoken without sound, understood without question. Love at its core is not about how loudly it is declared, but about how deeply it is lived. Quiet presence says, I am here with you when the world is heavy. It says, I will sit beside you in your joy and in your sorrow. It says, I do not need to fill the air with proof, for my being here is proof enough. That is the kind of love that speaks volumes in its silence. It is the love that lingers, that comforts without demand, that heals without shouting. We live in a world that celebrates noise. People believe that constant declarations and displays are the measure of affection. But true love does not perform for an audience. It does not need the echo of words to sustain itself. Instead, it thrives in the gentle strength of presence. A quiet glance, a hand held in silence, a steady nearness that does not ask for anything in return. These are the moments where love breathes most clearly. Think of the times in life when you were at your lowest. The words spoken to you may have faded, but what you remember most vividly is who stayed. You remember the one who sat with you when you could not speak. You remember the comfort of knowing you were not alone. That quiet presence, that simple act of being there, spoke louder than any declaration could. It said, I see you. I honor you. I will not leave you in this moment. That is love's most honest voice. Quiet presence also builds trust. Words can be manipulated, promises can be broken, but presence cannot be faked. To be present is to give something that cannot be manufactured, your time, your attention, your essence. In stillness, without the distraction of noise, love proves its sincerity. It does not hide behind decoration. It does not run from silence. It simply stays, and in staying, it becomes unshakable. This truth is not confined to love between people. It extends to our relationship with life itself. When we give life our quiet presence, when we pause long enough to truly see it, we discover beauty that declarations often miss. The sound of the wind, the warmth of the sun, the rhythm of the heart, all of these speak in silence. They do not declare their meaning with words, yet they carry the deepest truths. Life itself teaches us that presence is greater than proclamation. And perhaps this is why quiet presence is such a gift. It does not need to announce itself. It does not strive to prove its worth. It is simply there, steady and unwavering. Love, when given in presence, becomes timeless. It does not vanish with forgotten words. It remains as a living memory in the soul. So let us remember that the loudest voice of love is not always heard in constant declarations. It is felt in the stillness of presence. It is known in the quiet faithfulness of someone who stays. And in that silence, love speaks most truly, reminding us that being there is greater than saying so. And so when words fade away, let presence remain as the loudest voice of love. Silence nurtures patience, trust, and unspoken understanding. In a world where people often hurry to explain, to justify, to speak before listening, silence becomes a rare and sacred gift. It teaches us to wait without fear, to trust without constant assurance, and to understand without demanding words. Silence has the power to slow the rushing mind and soften the restless heart. In its stillness, it creates the space where love can grow roots, deep and strong, untouched by noise or haste. Patience is one of silence's greatest teachers. When we choose silence, we choose not to force outcomes or rush emotions. We allow love to unfold in its own time. Patience is the soil in which trust is planted, and silence waters that soil gently, consistently. In quietness, we learn to accept that not every answer arrives immediately, not every emotion is easily explained, not every wound heals overnight. The pause of silence allows life and love to move at their natural pace, reminding us that what is real does not crumble under waiting. Trust is another gift silence nurtures. Words may be spoken, but they can be broken. Promises may be made, but they can be forgotten. Yet trust grows strongest not in the constant repetition of reassurances, but in the steady presence that needs no announcement. Silence says, I believe in you even when I am not speaking. It says, I do not need to question you endlessly because your actions have shown me enough. This trust, born of silence, is stronger than words could ever be. It is built not on the surface of declarations, but on the depth of quiet faith. Unspoken understanding is perhaps the most beautiful fruit of silence. There are times when love does not require words at all, because the heart already knows. A simple glance can carry what entire conversations cannot. A pause between two people can communicate more than endless explanations. In that unspoken space, the soul speaks and the other soul listens. Silence allows this language of the heart to emerge, where no translation is needed and no effort is wasted. It is the sacred recognition that sometimes love is felt most deeply when nothing is said. Think of the moments when words were unnecessary, the time someone held your hand in grief without speaking, the time someone's presence comforted you more than any speech could, the times you looked at someone and knew without doubt what they meant. That is the grace silence gives us. It nurtures an understanding so deep that words might only diminish it. In those quiet moments, love breathes in freedom, because it does not have to explain itself, it simply exists. Silence is not the absence of care. On the contrary, silence is often the truest form of care. It waits patiently without forcing. It trusts deeply without questioning. It understands without demanding proof. In love, this silence is not coldness but warmth, not distance but closeness, not emptiness but fullness. It allows both souls to breathe without suffocation, to rest without fear, to grow without interruption. This gift of silence extends beyond relationships with others. It also nurtures our relationship with ourselves. When we grant ourselves silence, we cultivate patience with our own journey, trust in our own strength, and understanding of our own heart. In that quiet space, we remember who we are without the noise of the world defining us. Silence speaks to us in whispers that guide us toward healing, toward wisdom, toward peace. When silence nurtures patience, trust, and unspoken understanding, it prepares the ground for love to endure. It allows love to survive the storms and the seasons. It creates bonds that do not rely on constant reminders, but instead stand firmly on the quiet assurance of presence. This is why silence is not weakness. It is strength in its gentlest form, the strength that holds love steady without needing to display it in noise. So let us not resist silence, for it does not take away from love. It enriches it. It gives patience to endure, trust to believe, and understanding that words can never fully offer. And when we embrace that silence, we discover that love breathes more deeply and more freely than we ever imagined. And so, in silence, love grows steady, faithful, and true. The grace of silence strengthens bonds without demanding proof. In life and in love, we often feel the urge to explain ourselves, to reassure others with constant declarations, to put feelings into words so they can be measured. Yet words, however sincere, are not always enough to sustain what is sacred. True bonds are not proven through endless repetition of promises, but through the quiet strength of presence. Silence has a way of holding love together without forcing it, of deepening connections without demanding evidence. It is in the quiet spaces that love often becomes strongest, because it is there that it is allowed to simply exist without pressure. When two people are bound by love, silence between them does not create distance. Instead, it creates comfort. They do not need to fill every moment with conversation to know they are cherished. They do not need to constantly declare affection to feel secure. The bond itself speaks louder than the words ever could. Silence strengthens it by showing that the connection is not fragile. It does not collapse without sound. It does not weaken without explanation. It stands steady, supported by trust and the quiet assurance that love does not vanish in stillness. The grace of silence teaches us that proof is not always required, because love that is genuine does not fight to justify itself. It does not beg for recognition. It does not parade itself before the world. Love that is true is content to be still, knowing that its presence alone is enough. This grace allows us to step away from the endless cycle of needing to hear, needing to explain, needing to prove, and instead to rest in the certainty that love, when real, is self-sustaining. It breathes in silence, and in silence it shows its strength. Think of the bonds in your own life that have endured the test of time. They are not strong because of constant declarations, but because of silent loyalty. They are strong because of the moments when someone stood by you without needing recognition. They are strong because of the quiet ways love revealed itself, through listening, through showing up, through staying. Those silent acts spoke with a voice that no speech could match. They required no proof because they were proof in themselves. Silence strengthens bonds because it removes the pressure to perform. When you are truly loved, you are not forced to keep proving your worth. You are allowed to simply be. In that stillness, you discover freedom, and in that freedom, the bond grows deeper. Constant words may comfort for a moment, but silence provides a foundation that lasts. It says we do not need to remind each other every second, because what we share is beyond doubt. It is already known. This truth extends to every relationship we hold dear, not just in love, but in friendship, in family, in faith. The deepest connections are not built on constant explanations, but on quiet endurance. They are built in the unspoken understanding that even when no words are exchanged, the bond remains unbroken. Silence becomes the invisible thread that keeps souls tied together across distance and time. Even in our relationship with ourselves, silence strengthens the bond we have with our own heart. When we step away from the noise and listen inwardly, we stop demanding proof of our worth from the world outside. In that quiet, we learn to trust ourselves, to believe in our own strength, and to understand that value does not always need to be announced. Silence becomes the ground where self-love and acceptance take root. The grace of silence is a kind of quiet confidence. It does not rush, it does not demand, it does not doubt. It trusts that what is true will stand even without constant defense. And in this trust, bonds are not only preserved, they are made unshakable. So let us embrace the silence that strengthens love. Let us cherish the bonds that do not require endless proof. And let us remember that what is real does not fear the stillness. And so, in silence, bonds become stronger than words could ever make them. In stillness, love learns to endure and grow without noise. Love, at its truest, is not a firework that bursts loudly in the sky only to vanish a moment later. It is a steady flame, quietly burning, keeping its warmth alive without drawing constant attention. Stillness is the place where that flame is fed. It gives love room to settle, to deepen, to become more than a fleeting spark. Noise may excite for a moment, but it is stillness that allows love to take root and last. When we live in a world filled with chatter and demands, It is easy to believe that love must always prove itself through sound. People expect declarations, constant reminders, repeated words of assurance. Yet love that is dependent on noise is fragile. It falters when the voices fall silent. But love that learns to live in stillness becomes unshakable because it draws its strength not from performance but from presence. Silence becomes the soil in which love grows strong because it does not rely on noise to survive. Stillness teaches endurance. To love in silence is to accept that love is not always dramatic, not always loud, not always dressed in grand gestures. Sometimes love is simply staying. It is showing up day after day, even when nothing is said. It is being present in the ordinary, the quiet mornings, the silent evenings, the pauses in between. This quiet endurance gives love its true power. It does not burn out because it is not fueled by noise. It breathes softly, steadily, carrying itself through time with patience. Growth in love also requires stillness. Words may plant seeds, but stillness waters them. In silence, love has the chance to listen, to observe, to understand more deeply. Without constant chatter, space opens for reflection and for noticing the subtler ways love reveals itself. A glance, a gesture, a presence. All of these grow stronger in the absence of noise. Love matures not by being spoken endlessly, but by being lived quietly with consistency and care. Consider the strongest relationships you have seen. They are not defined by how often words of love are spoken, but by how steady the love remains when words are not needed. They grow in silence because silence teaches them to trust. Noise can be deceiving, but stillness is honest. It reveals whether love can breathe without applause, whether it can endure without constant proof. If love remains steady in silence, then it has already proven its strength. There is also a healing quality in stillness. Love that is always noisy can become exhausting, weighed down by the need for constant affirmation. But love in stillness is restful. It allows both souls to breathe, to be themselves without the pressure of always performing. It creates a safe space where flaws can be embraced, where hearts can heal, where patience is nurtured. In this quiet, love does not weaken. It gathers strength for the journey ahead. Even our love for life itself is sustained in stillness. When we pause and allow silence to enter, we discover the endurance to face our trials and the growth to embrace our joys. Life does not reveal its greatest lessons in noise, but in quiet reflection. In the still moments, we learn to trust the process, to believe in the unseen, to endure the waiting seasons without despair. Love for life breathes most fully when it is allowed to rest in silence, gathering the strength to rise again. This is the secret of love's endurance. It does not need to shout. It does not demand constant sound. It grows quietly, silently, faithfully. Stillness teaches it to survive storms without breaking, to remain rooted even when words are absent. In silence, love does not fade. It becomes deeper, stronger, everlasting. And so, in the stillness where there is no noise, love learns to endure and grow into its truest form. Silence reveals that real love does not compete for attention. In a world filled with constant noise, where everyone is striving to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged, silence stands apart. It does not demand the spotlight, it does not clamor for recognition, and it does not chase after applause. Real love has no desire to prove itself through comparison or competition. It is not measured by how much attention it draws from others, but by how steady and true it remains even when no one else is watching. Silence unveils this truth by stripping away the performance and leaving only what is genuine. When love is real, it does not cry out for validation. It does not need to constantly display itself in order to feel secure. It is not restless in the absence of words or gestures. Real love is content to exist quietly, knowing that its strength lies in its presence, not in its performance. Silence gives us the space to see this clearly. In silence, love is not competing with noise, not seeking to outshine others, not striving to win approval. It simply is unshaken, unbothered, and free from the hunger of attention. Think of the sun. It rises every day without competing for our notice, yet it sustains life. Think of the roots of a tree. They grow beneath the surface, unseen, but they are the reason the tree stands tall and endures storms. Real love is like that. It works quietly, often unnoticed, but it is the very reason hearts survive. It does not matter if the world claps for it, because it is not here to be applauded. It is here to endure, to nourish, to remain. Silence reveals this by stripping love of the stage and leaving behind only its essence. Love that competes for attention often fades quickly. It is built on appearances, on the need to be noticed, on the chase for constant approval. But that is not love, it is performance. And performances end when the audience leaves. Real love does not end when there is no one to watch. It continues quietly, faithfully, even in the hidden moments no one sees. Silence reminds us of this, because in silence there is no audience, no applause, no recognition, only truth. Silence also teaches us that love is not about winning. It is not a contest to prove who cares more, who sacrifices more, or who declares more. Love is not a race for attention, it is a journey of faithfulness. In silence, we see that the greatest love is often the one that simply stays. It does not need to compete with noise because it is not fragile. Its worth does not come from being noticed, but from being true. This truth extends into every form of love, between partners, between friends, between family, and even the love we hold for ourselves. Real love for a friend does not demand attention every day to prove itself. Real love for family does not compete with the world's distractions. And self-love, when real, does not rely on others noticing. It exists quietly within, steady and unwavering, regardless of who recognizes it. Silence makes room for this understanding, showing us that the worth of love is not measured by attention, but by endurance. Even in our love for life, the same truth shines through. Life does not compete for our attention with noise. It offers quiet wonders each day. The beauty of a sunrise, the calm of the night sky, the stillness of the air after rain. These are silent, yet they remind us of the greatness of life itself. They do not compete, they do not demand, they simply are. And in that simplicity lies their power. Silence reveals what the noise often hides, that the true love is not the one that demands to be noticed, but the one that remains constant even when unnoticed. It is love that listens more than it speaks, that gives more than it asks, that endures more than it boasts. It is love that does not shrink in stillness, but grows stronger there. And so, in the silence where attention fades away, we discover that real love was never competing. It was simply being true all along. As we come to the close of these reflections, let us carry with us the quiet power of silence. We have seen how it holds truths that words cannot capture, how it gives love the space to breathe freely, how it strengthens bonds, nurtures trust, and teaches us endurance. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness unspoken. It is the sacred ground where love learns to be steady, patient, and true. In a world that often measures worth by noise, may we have the courage to honor the stillness that allows love to grow deeper than any declaration. So, as you walk forward, remember that love does not need to compete. It does not need to shout. It does not need constant proof. It only needs presence, trust, and the grace of silence. Hold on to that truth, let it guide your steps, and you will discover that the quietest moments often carry the loudest strength. I wish you every blessing as you embrace this grace in your own journey. May silence fill you with peace. May love breathe freely within you, and may your days be steady with its gentle strength. Good luck to each of you, and thank you for sharing this moment in silence and in love.